So the role here now as a head coach, are you noticing a change, from your perspective, being here previously and now being as a head coach?
Um, yeah, obviously it is different, but it's not different in the fact that we're put stats together before on an offensive side. Now we're working the whole team. Being here at the combine, getting to work a little closer with the GM, but it's other than that, it's just being here. The job is to get to know the players, so kind of just taking it one step at a time that way.
Clint, how much time are you spending right now? I know you're drinking out of a fire hose, but watching film, analyzing the guys you have, does
Yeah.
that consume a lot?
Yeah, that's really been something I've been spending a lot of time on lately. Going back through last year's season, watching individual players tape, even digging into free agents, and all the while now talking to the draft picks and meeting them. So, really using my day to watch the Raiders tape and using my nights to do the draft right now.
Rob Leonard has been assistant here for quite some time, and you promoted him to defensive coordinator. What went into that decision? Kind of like what stood out to you when he was interviewing for the position?
Yeah, that was interesting how it came to be because I didn't know Rob going into it. You know, John Spytek, spoke so highly of him when I first got hired. I knew Joe Woods really well. Joe spoke really highly of Robbie. I had some people that I wanted to talk to, but in my short time with Robbie, I was just extremely impressed with his knowledge, with obviously the backing that he had in the building, the relationships that he built. And then when it came time to interview, Robbie was impressive. He had a plan. He knew what he wanted to do. He knew the type of players he needed to do it with, and it just revealed itself to me that he was the right guy for the job. So really excited to work with him.
And how do you envision his scheme to look? Because he like even though he's worked under Patrick Graham, Brian Flores, Mike McDonald, just wonder what are you expecting his scheme and how he runs the defense? How you think that's going to look?
Yeah, well, I do see us being a base 3-4 team. See us being able to play four down as well. I think Robbie can be very multiple with his fronts. Obviously coming from working with Mike, working in Miami with Flores, he's got a lot of really impressive influences. But he also has he has his own identity as well. So, we're getting to work on that part of the puzzle right now. And talking personnel this time of year, but I'm really excited about it. Really more of the person more than anything.
I was wondering, have you ever had time to think about where you envision Geno Smith with the roster move and your roster moving forward? How do you envision his future? So
Yeah. Well, looking at all options right now. Watching Geno play last year, obviously very familiar with what he had done before. We're just kind of putting it all on the table right now, just trying to see every possible avenue we can go next year at quarterback, and he's definitely one of those options we're considering.
And have you had any conversations with him since you've been hired?
Very briefly. Built a relationship with him last year at this time. Yeah, we have spoken a little bit.
How much are you leaning on your scouting department right now, obviously coming into such a brand new situation? How much have you felt like you beat them in terms of evaluating the guys coming in so late?
Yeah, very, very heavily. Those guys, they've already set the table. They've done all the work. They're catching me up, and they've been phenomenal. John's staff is really impressive. Brian Stark, the college staff, the pro staff, those guys are on it. So, been working really closely with them every day.
The way this process played out, you're on a Super Bowl run. You're celebrating, and you're starting jumping right into the staff. Have you had time to appreciate the reaching this level and getting this job and everything else with your family and all that?
No, but that's okay because it's a real blessing to get to jump right back into it. I was talking to my wife the other day. I was just looking at a few pictures from the Super Bowl and just saying, man, did that really just happen? So that was and now I'm seeing some Seattle coaches and scouts here in the hallways. It's like, man, I don't work with you guys anymore. So it all happened really fast. But that's the NFL now with it. If you play that late in the season, then the calendar just starts right up again with the combine. So it's a good problem to have.
How exciting is it to have Rick Dennison as the offensive line coach with all the experience that he brings and obviously been with you multiple times?
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was a top hire right there to get Rico from Seattle. Just a phenomenal teacher, phenomenal coach. He's done it for a long time at a high level. There's an identity that his offensive lines play with, play style that I'm really excited for him to bring that here to Las Vegas.
What is that? What is that identity?
Yeah, well, it's a smart, hard-nosed, dependable, and we have a long way to go to develop that here, but that's what the spring is for, and looking forward to mid to early April to get started with our guys.
You have traditionally liked a very athletic offensive line. I don't know if do you anticipate continuing that? The previous staff moved JPJ to guard because they wanted to be more athletic, even at center. When you look at him, where do you see him?
Yeah, well, I see a versatile guy, a guy that can play guard and center. Where he's going to be for us, that's to be seen. But the fact that he can do multiple spots is really exciting. I think I really like JPJ's play style. I like turning on that Chicago game and see him being physical and, playing through the echo of the whistle. That's the kind of mindset I want our guys to play with.
You've mentioned that you've been able to take a look at the tape. The Raiders have made a lot of investment on the offensive line with draft picks over the last few years. When you see that group, I know it's been a struggle and there's been some injuries, but do you see something to work with the current players that are on the roster?
I do. I've seen, obviously you had some stability at both tackle spots. You got some young picks and with JPJ, with Caleb. It's a work in progress. Still learning all the guys. Still kind of catching up on last season and what they've done. But what I do know is that we're gonna have we have a clear teaching style. We've been around whether it was New Orleans or Seattle or Minnesota. I've seen Rick Dennison get the best out of his guys, and the main thing is that we get them all playing together, and that comes with teaching our system. So the quicker we can get them up to date with the language, with the verbiage, with our play style, and the more they can get reps together and communicate together, then that's when they start improving. So I do like the guys that we got, and we're always looking to get better.
Just curious on the 3-4 defense. Was that something that you want, or was it something that Robbie said, hey, I feel like with what we have, that's the best approach to take?
I think both. Yeah, both. Yeah, we're in this thing together. That just from his background in Baltimore, he's been in a lot of schemes, but he has a concise vision on who he wants to be. But as we get into free agency and the draft, and who our players are and what they do best, that's what we're going to eventually evolve to. But you got to have a starting point, and that starting point to me would be a base 3-4.
You just kind of touched on it, but why is it so important to you to make sure that before you have to make all these decisions, obviously with free agency and making sure you get the right draft picks, like making sure that the people in the building are being coached properly, developed properly, to address needs that you might not even have to go and get because you have it in the building?
Yeah, I mean that's what we're working on right now, is just getting to know the pieces that we have so we can identify our needs for free agency. Just knowing this roster first before we can dive into what holes we got to fill. So that's really, really important, and we're working through that right now with the coaches. All the while being here at the combine, so you kind of do it all at once. But the great thing is, Spies allowed us to hire some really veteran coaches that have done this before. It's not their first rodeo. And we've done this together quite a bit with Rick, with Andrew. So there's some guys that have, been in the fire together, and that really helps things when you're on a short timetable like we are now.
John made it really clear yesterday there's going to be, this isn't a rush to try to 1-year turnaround. They're going to build the right way. As a new coach, first-year coach, how refreshing is it to know your GM's out there ahead of the curve talking about the reality of this isn't going to be a 1-year turnaround? Yeah,
I think we're all on the same page there. But we also understand the NFL is, what have you done for me today? So, yes, that we have a long way to go. However, we got to make sure that we set ourselves up for success too. Like the expectation is not to just kind of get to this thing slowly. Like in a perfect world, you want to win now. But what John talks about and what he preaches is getting the right people in the building. I think that was a great start last year with his draft and the type of people and the character that he brought into the building. And when you can build with young, high character guys that work hard, that's what's going to give us the best shot.
Obviously, when you're on a Super Bowl run like you were last year, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to watch college football on Saturdays. So, kind of curious where your level of understanding or insight on Fernando Mendoza was, and where it is now, and what have you been able to glean from what you've been watching?
Yeah, very little exposure throughout the year, but in last couple of weeks got to catch up, watch the man play. Excited to keep learning about him, and it's not just me. It's our whole coaching staff, our quarterback coach, and I want all of our coaches to get involved, especially at that position. I want everybody's input, but obviously, he's been successful. Had a lot of success last year. He's won a national championship, and that's what you want a winner. And we're still in the process of going through his whole season, of getting to know who he is, and we'll learn more about him this week at the combine.
What are the traits that best fit what you want in a quarterback for your system?
Things that stick out to me is decision making, timing, and accuracy. No matter if it's the first pick or the last pick in the draft, that's what we're looking for. If you're the head of the organization, you got to be the best decision maker on and off the field. Timing is just getting the ball out on time to our playmakers, not holding on to the ball, and accuracy is as explained. So those three things are really important to me.
John and Tom, when they were in Tampa, John would bring voluminous amounts of information to Tom every week, and he would pour through it. John prefers the term thorough more than analytical, but it's analytical, and you are that way. In the interview process with Tom and John, was that something that just clicked, that you guys are kind of all on the same page on how you process football?
Yeah, no, I think that that stood out, and that's where the league's going right now. It's just about how do you filter that, get the guys that are working behind the scenes, and they give me a presentable one-page summary of all these data points that you're talking about, but just squeezing down the information and working together with that team to tell them, hey, what's important to me? This is what I'd like you to look for. And you just want as much as possible, because at the end of the day, you got to make a decision. You want to have the most data to make that decision, and then you pair that with what you see, and the real answer lies somewhere in between. But having a really good analytical team in the background, I think is really helpful.
I was curious, what do you think are some of the mistakes you may have seen other teams make in terms of bringing in a young rookie quarterback, developing them? What do you think some of the mistakes that's kind of like maybe hurt that player's development? Because Spytek told us yesterday how sometimes for young guys, it's maybe their struggles could be more of an organization, with the organization they compare to the players. So I was wondering what mistakes you think teams have made, like in the past, or what you've seen that has hurt young guys' development into the league.
I can't speak to those teams. I will say that the success of the quarterback is the success of the team. Playing good defense, special teams, running the football on offense. But I think any of these QBs that succeed, they're going to succeed. They wouldn't have succeeded regardless of myself or the organization. Like, great quarterbacks, they just find a way to get it done. They don't make excuses. They find a way to bring people together. They find a way to get the best out of their players. That's obviously our job as coaches. But great, the cream rises to the top. So you're looking for who is that individual that can find a way, no matter the circumstances.
Are you guys going to hire a quarterback coach, and what do you see Mike McCoy's role?
Yeah. We're still working through finalizing the staff. Mike McCoy has a very large role in helping me day to day run the team. Just being another voice, former head coach. Obviously, a former quarterback coach. That's I think he's coached 6 first-round draft picks is what he told me. But Mike's going to have a role in coaching. He's going to have a role in administration. He's going to have a role with every day-to-day thing that goes with being a head coach. And this time of year, it's really more about we're putting schedules together, leaning on him with things he's done before. And he's just my right-hand man right now with every part of the team.
Your offenses have always kind of adapted to the personnel that you have, but a lot of times you have a fullback. How important is that fullback position?
Yeah, it is important. You got to find the right guy, and if you can find that guy, then he becomes a big part of your offense. If they are harder to find. So that's the fun part right now, especially in the draft, is seeing who's available and who we can develop free agent wise as well. Would love to play with a fullback, but you also got to play with your best 11. So we're gonna be on the lookout for one for sure.
You are very much built your offenses on two backs. Obviously, you've got Ashton. I'd love your thoughts and analysis on him. And then what are you going to be looking for in that second back?
Yeah, definitely want to have a two-man show there, guys that can share the load. It's a long season. You don't want to put all the carries and targets on one guy. So right now we're identifying guys that are available here in the draft, identifying free agents we might go after, looking at our own roster and seeing who can take that. But it is important that Genty has a wingman, and it's probably not going to be just one guy. So that'll be really important to identify.
When going through the tape from this past season, kind of like what stands out to you about Trey Tucker?
Yeah, what stands out to me about Trey is that he's very tough. I see him as a shorter guy at least, but he's in there blocking safeties, very unselfish. He's available. He's not missing games. Just the kind of the mindset that you want, regardless of position. So I really like his play style.
So this wild last couple of weeks that you've gone through and trying to figure all this out that you're doing right now, is there anything that has surprised you or kind of been like something you didn't expect maybe along the way that was like, oh, this was kind of an obstacle that I wasn't really prepared for?
I've been really fortunate to be around a lot of head coaches on a lot of different teams. Grew up with one too. As of right now, nothing jumps out that way. But I got a lot of support. We got a lot of talented coaches around me to spread the work out, because that's what's really important, to hire good people and trust them to get their jobs done so that everybody can be the best at their area of expertise. So we're using our strengths of our staff right now.
Along those lines, you're very young at head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, but you have veterans all throughout the staff. And you talked about kind of relying on those guys a little bit. Was that intentional to kind of have that experience around for you guys?
Yeah, it is. And obviously the idea is to hire the best guy for the job, but it is good to have a mix. But having veteran coaches is really, really important to me. Having Coach Dennison, having Al Holcomb on defense, and just we're still hiring people. We're still in the process of that, hiring Joe DeCamillis, guys that have done it for a long time at a high level. But the young guys that we have interviewed and hired, they're there for a reason. So you got to start somewhere. And I want those young guys to be themselves, but then we're going to lean on the veteran leadership behind them.
Klint, has there been any surprises in a positive way? Maybe something you thought just from the outside, maybe this is going to be a big hole, and maybe you've gotten in and been pleasantly surprised. Hey, maybe this isn't as bad as I thought certain things were.
Know that we signed up for a challenge, and really excited for that challenge. I think any team I've ever been on, you have expectations going into the year, and you're always pleasantly surprised by the people that are around you. So when I'm starting to look more at our roster and the guys I see, on tape, I'm really encouraged by the talent that we have. I'm also not naive enough to know, like, once the season starts, the things change. They change really quickly. The guys that we're counting on right now, they're really one play away from being on IR. So building depth in our team will be really important. And this time of year is so critical. Free agency, and then finding our draft picks that are gonna contribute to the Raiders for the next 10 to 12 years is really important.
When you're going into these combine interviews with these prospects, what's the biggest thing that you're looking for in terms of knowing about their personality or just their football acumen? Like, what's the biggest thing that you want to take from these interviews?
Yeah, I always look at, like, is this a person that I can coach? Is this a coachable person? When you're talking to them in the interview and you're bringing up their tape, do they have all the answers for you, or are they coachable? So you have an 18-minute window to kind of get into that and see what that person's like. So, hey, is this a person that can take coaching, or is this guy so hard-headed that he knows it all? That's one thing that really stands out right now, because once they're yours for a long time, and you got to make sure you can help them get better. And if they're not willing to get better because for whatever reason, then that's usually a person you want to stay away from.
In the back end of that too, do you notice that, with NIL culture, does it changing any of the kind of like their personalities when you're going into this? Or, I know Spytek said yesterday it kind of like illuminates character a little bit more. Do you notice that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because I've been a part of the transition of from the old way to now NIL what it is now, and they're making more money now than they were whatever a few years ago. So I think what Spy said is really true, that these guys, now that they have money in their pocket, then it's not surprising what they're going to do once they get into your building. So I think that helps. But one thing that's unique is that these guys, a lot of guys bounce around from team to team, and because of that, sometimes they're not as developed in the weight room. For instance, you're going from place to place, or they don't have as much time on task in one system. So we're just trying to identify what those holes are. But that's our job as coaches, is to see what their strengths are and to eliminate those strengths.
Obviously, Maxx Crosby has been a little bit of a story here. What's your sense of that situation, and maybe the interactions that you guys have had with each other?
Yeah, it's a guy that we really want on our team. It's simple as that. We want Maxx to be a Raider, and the few interactions I've had with him have been very very positive. Really excited about working with Maxx this year.
Klint, talking to people around the NFL about what it looks like here in the short time you've been here, they've commented that you've went out and gotten a lot of different people from different trees. And they mentioned how your dad didn't want yes men. He wanted people who had different ideas. And so when you look at your staff, did you use what your dad did and how you did it? And would you talk about that side of you that doesn't want yes men? You want the different trees to have the different input.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a good mix. You want to have people that you have some work experience with, but you really want people that are better than you. You want better coaches, guys that can challenge you in a good way and enhance your offense and bring new ideas offensively and defensively. I think the experience I've had with those individuals that just want to be told what to do and tell you how good a job you're doing, those are usually the ones that are not going to be a part of the winning solution. So we're definitely looking for guys to help us grow.
When it's all said and done, what is the identity of a Klint Kubiak-led team?
Yeah, well, I knew this question's going to come up, and that's something that's really important for me to share with our team when we get together for the first time. So I don't want them to have to read about it. What our identity is going to be? I'd love them to watch some of the tape that we've used in Seattle, but those are some discussions that would be really important to address the team day one.
Don't worry, they don't read what we write. He'll go on Twitter. Cool. One more? Okay, yeah.
Looking at Ashton Genty, just like how excited are you to utilize him, not as a pass catcher? That's one of the things that like he showed a lot of like positive signs with as a rookie, or as well as his ability to kind of go outside, line up as a receiver. Just what stands out to you about that element of his game?
Yeah, he's a 3-down back. He should be able to help you in multiple ways: run the football, catching it, protecting. If you're going to be on the field in all 3 downs, then you got to have all 3 of those, and he has it. Really liked diving into his rookie season. He's going to be a major building block of our offense. But it's like I said in the first presser, it's going to be his success will be because his offensive line's playing well, because whoever that second back is running the ball well, because our quarterback's making good decisions. We want to bring the best out of Genty, but that comes with the team playing well as a whole. But he's got all the tools to be successful.